Hey guys, it's your girl Ariel Phoenix here again, and welcome to our very first episode of Migraine Monday Madness. Mama Madness. All jokes aside, though, this is kind of a more serious vlog right here. I myself struggle with migraines, and I think that there isn't enough awareness about it. Um, so often I hear it's just a migraine. Is it really that bad? Things like that. And it is not just a headache, just a migraine. It is that bad. They literally can just completely stop your day, stop you from doing the things that you need to do or want to do. I have had migraines since I was in fifth grade. Of course, back then they weren't as bad or even as often, but it was bad enough for me to be diagnosed with having chronic migraines and having to be put on medication. And throughout the many years since then, they have gotten way, 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 way worse. And just when I think that they can't get any worse, they do. And they've also gotten more, what's the word? Frequent. There was one time where I had the same migraine for, I believe it was 13 days. I definitely went to the hospital. I've been to the hospital more than once for migraines. And the problem with having migraines, other than the fact that people who don't have them don't get it, is the fact that when you go to the doctor, it makes you feel like the doctor doesn't really know what they're doing, or they don't get it, or what's the point, because you are waiting and waiting and waiting and you're in pain. I mean, I was in so much pain that I couldn't physically move. I was in a wheelchair. And this is on more than one occasion, but one time I was actually in a wheelchair because the pain was just so physically bad. And I was crying, and I was there for hours and hours in the waiting room, and everybody else is going and going and going because their stuff is deemed more serious because it's just a migraine. And I'm throwing up, and it's just really bad. And it's like, dang, when am I going to get called? When is this pain going to stop? When are they going to give me something? When are they going to see me? This person is lollygagging and talking and laughing and making jokes and going through their phone, and I'm just sitting here in pain, unable to really move, throwing up left and right and crying and just waiting to be called. But it's just a migraine. And then you go to triage, they give you medicine for throwing up. So now I'm no longer throwing up, but I'm still in pain. They have given me nothing for my pain. And then I finally get called back to see the actual doctor, and it's just like, there is really nothing we can do. We can give you some, the usual pain medications, but that's it. Like, that's all we can really do. And not only do I walk out of there not feeling any better, because the usual pain meds don't do anything for me. If they did, I wouldn't be stuck in this chronic migraine situation that continually gets worse every year for, I want to say, 15 years now. Because I think I was 10 in fifth grade. I was 10 or I was 9, and I'll be 25 this year. So you do the math. And yeah, so if medication, the usual medications, was enough to solve my problem, I really wouldn't be here in this situation, stuck with this illness. And um, it is hard, obviously. On the topic of medications, I can't name all of them off the top of my dome. But I've definitely been on many, many different ones. And one of the big problems for me is that I don't know if it's because I've been on so many different medications for so long, or if it's like my body's natural way of doing things. But for me, a lot of the times, my body either reacts badly, and I end up 10 times worse than before I took the medication, or I have no reaction at all, which obviously sucks because I'm still in pain. So either way, I come out bad. Like for instance, I believe it's called Max salts. I don't know if I'm actually allergic to it or not, but I definitely cannot take that medication. I This was one of my worser, which I'm aware is not a word, okay? But I can't think of the right word. I am freaking tired. Um, Max thought I actually reacted really, really badly, and I came out worser than when I took the medicine. Is once I took it, I was not able to move off the couch at all. Like I couldn't even lift my arm, and I kind of felt like I was having a heart attack, even though I know I wasn't. That was my body's reaction to the medicine, but it felt like I was having a heart attack because my left arm was in so much pain and my chest was hurting and it was hard to breathe. Everything was tight and I couldn't move, and that feeling was there for hours on end. And the sucky part is, on top of all that, my migraine got worse. So it was like, what was the point of taking this medication? Like I said, that was one of my more horrible reactions. But I mean, there are other ones, like I believe it's Topamax. When I take that one, my head does feel slightly better, just slightly. But I can't get off the couch for like 2 hours before my head actually starts to feel better. And I feel 10 times worse for those 2 hours before I get better. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Ariel Phoenix, that's feeling better. That medicine sounds somewhat helpful, but it isn't, because I have 2 kids and 2 dogs who require me to take care of them, especially my kids. So I can't very well be laid on the couch for 2+ hours, unable to do anything, because that's how much pain I'm in. And that's the situation I'm trying to get out of, because there are times where my migraines are so bad that I can't get off the couch. Actually, it's quite often. So I don't need a medication adding to those times, because that's what I'm trying to fix. So yeah, there are lots of other medications as well. I'm not gonna specifically list each one right now and give you their reaction, but I was on so many different medications, and it got to the point where I was like, you know what, if you can't remember all of them, you need to write up a migraine diary, not because the doctor told you to, but because you need to know, like, what have you already tried? What was your reaction to them? Because they are bad, and you don't need to take the same medication again because they don't believe you when you say you've already tried this one. And you don't want to have to experience that bad reaction all over again. And also just hoping that maybe this information will help the doctor figure out what works and what doesn't. Um, and so I do have one, although honestly I kind of stopped writing in it. My days kind of get so hectic and there's a lot going up here that I tend to forget about things very easily. That being one of them, even though it's super important. So I definitely need to go back to doing that. But that's how many medications I've been on that I had to sit there and write various pages on. Okay, this medicine makes me feel like this, and this medicine makes me feel like this, and I took this medicine from this month to this month of this year. Because I have said to a doctor before, I have been on this medication before. It is not in my file because I wasn't a military wife yet, and I was unable to get that those files switched to the post files or whatever. But I know for a fact I've been on that medication. And I remember it specifically because of how I reacted to it. And the doctor was like, well, let's try it again because you don't seem 100% sure or whatever. It's not in the file, so let's just try it anyway. Why try something that we've already tried? I know for a fact it doesn't work. I know how I react to it. And I feel like it really sucks that doctors aren't, and I don't want to say like doctors suck, doctors are pointless and all that, because I don't believe that. I believe that there's a reasons why doctors exist. I believe that they, to some extent, know what they're doing, but they are practicing. It's called a medical practice for a reason. They're not perfect. They are human. They make mistakes. But the problem is with migraines is that a lot of the stuff you go through, the pain and some of the ailments aren't physically visible to everybody. So unless that doctor has migraines of their own, or maybe has a spouse or a child or whatever of their own, where they can see it on a personal level what the migraine feels like, then they just don't get it. And I know that for a fact because my experience with all the usual doctors versus my experience with one particular doctor who has had migraines of her own has been very, very different. And actually, my neurologist office, they call me a lot. And they want me to do like these tests on new medications and all these things. And I thought about it. Definitely not going to do it. With the way that my body tends to react badly to a lot of medicines, I'm not going to set myself up for the okie doke, basically. But they called me one time and she's like, oh, well, you can only take this particular medication if you have these particular types of migraines. Yes, for those of you who didn't know, there are different types of migraines. Do I know each specific type off the top of my head? Heck no. But there are different types. But she had the nerve to say to me after I answered her questions, and she decided that I didn't fit the requirements of the program. She decided that it was okay to say to me, well, you should be glad, you should be thankful that you don't meet the requirements, because if you had these types of headaches, you would be in way worse pain, because these headaches make you want to kill yourself. These migraines are just that bad. They're way worse than what you experience. I wanted to be like, chick, and in my mind, chick is not the word I want to use, but I wanted to be like, chick, you don't know my pain, and how do you call yourself a nurse, a doctor, LPN, CNA, any of those things, and say to a patient, you should be lucky your pain isn't worse. Your pain isn't at this level. It's not bad enough. Like, okay, that was completely unnecessary and disrespectful. And that's why these videos are important, because of people like that. And that just goes to show you that the average person does think of a migraine as just a headache. If a nurse or doctor can say your pain isn't bad enough, you should be thankful, then imagine what the average person that's not a doctor or a nurse or not in the medical field in any way, shape, or form feels and can say. They don't understand. They really don't. And even people who just get a migraine like every once in a blue moon aren't even as understanding. So therefore, these videos are necessary. Therefore, I hope this can change the way that people see migraines, that people gain understanding, that my family and friends gain understanding for my sake, for other people's sake, that it spreads like a virus, but a good virus, so that people can help one another in these situations, because it is really hard to ask for help when you think the person doesn't understand, or when that person has the idea that your pain is invisible, so therefore it's not real. And we will definitely get more into that. We already kind of went deep in the first episode, but trust me, it'll get deeper. It really will. Mind you, this is like 14, 15 years of pain. So get ready to get emotional here and there, but this is necessary. Emotions are there because of how much pain and how much stigma there is with that pain. So sorry that these videos are a little sad, but like I said, they're necessary. So please stay tuned for next week and all the weeks to come. Please subscribe. This is really necessary. This is really serious. Please, please, please subscribe. If you don't listen to any of my other videos, please listen to these, because this is important. Way more than you think. This is your girl, Ariel Phoenix, and I'm signing off from this edition of Migraine Monday Madness. Madness.